Mhm. Good afternoon and welcome. It's Feel Good Friday. Hi, I'm Sally Monroe with Century 21, and thank you for joining us today. And today we have a wonderful panel of fantastic people joining us today. And we're going to be discussing a lot of wonderful things. And isn't it good news? It sounds like we're going to start opening up a few things so we can get out and maybe visit a park, go to the odd restaurant, still all while social distancing, okay? So it's like getting out of the being grounded a little bit. So it's pretty exciting, just even those little bits of news that we're hearing and how wonderful people are starting to sound. So I'm excited too at this prospect. So I'd like you to welcome to today's webinar someone that's not new to us, and we're delighted he's here, Leonardo Dieste from Scotiabank. Hi, Leonardo. It's so good to see you.
Hey, Sally. Good to see you too.
You look fantastic since the last
time you were
here. So we're happy you can join us. And we'd like you to meet John Cliff. You met John Cliff here before. John, hi, John. Look at you.
Hi, Leonardo.
You know, you do look fantastic in lilac.
I gotta say, Leonardo, Scotia's our favorite lender.
That's great.
Absolutely.
And John, I'm sure you've heard the little bit of news that we'll be able to get out and golf while social distancing and paying attention to some rules. So I see that's a pretty cool golf shirt. And I'd like you guys to meet Doris Bonora. Doris is a partner at Denton's. Denton's is a household name, Doris, in Edmonton. Everybody knows a lot of people at Denton's. You guys, you know, your legalese spans the entire profile of whatever anybody needs, but your expertise, wills and trusts. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. And it's something I think that Leonardo from the Scotiabank touched on weeks and weeks ago. It's a really good time to start spending time on thinking about your financial picture. And I think part and parcel of that, Leo will agree, is maybe we need to brush up on whether we have a will, update it, or do we need one? Yes, we do. And then we should think about estates. We've been hearing things about freezing estates and creating estates. So we're looking forward to you telling us a few things. So listen.
Thank you for having me on. It's so great.
It's so good of you to join us. And I love your office. Are you physically in your office, Doris?
Yeah, I'm sitting on the 26th floor of the Stantec Tower. So because I do a lot of trusts and we have lots of people who need money from their trusts, I've been coming into the office. But our office is pretty barren. I think we usually maybe have about 300 people here and we're at about maybe 10. So we're pretty barren here.
Well, at least you're paying attention to the social distancing rules and keeping yourself safe. But I agree. I mean, as long as there's someone there to, write those checks and get that money out the door, right, Leo?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, so who am I going to hear from first today? How about you, Doris? Talking about money, and then Leo.
Well, so I've been doing a bit of talking and writing about just even estate planning in a pandemic, because of course, our practice is unfortunately a bit about sickness and death. So you need your affairs in order when you get sick, and you need them in order after you die. And that's a bit more difficult in a pandemic when you can't go visit lawyers and you can't have people around to witness wills. But we've been saying, it's still very possible to get this done. And our practice has a lot of, we service a lot of business people, of course. We're the biggest law firm in the world, so we do a lot of work for business people. And I would say one of the most important things that's been relevant is that business people need to have somebody appointed to be able to preserve their business, because of course I think lots of businesses are hanging on by their toenails these days, but also to be able to apply for all these government programs so they can in fact salvage things. And that's true after someone dies. So we've had a case recently where a person unfortunately committed suicide, and now we're trying to just deal with his business and try and preserve its value for his family. So my big message is that if people don't get their affairs in order, they kind of leave a mess behind for their family, because not having a will never affects you. You're always good. You're going to go to some better place. But we really want to get those affairs in order so that your family's not in turmoil, and maybe they'll get together for Christmas the year after you die.
That would be cool. No, I agree. I think it's extraordinarily important. And Leo, when creating an investment plan for your clients, is this an area that you touch on?
Yes, I do. Doris would be the person to go for that legal advice piece. But when when I'm putting together a financial plan for my customers, we have the conversation about, does a will exist? And the advice is always, is this will current? Where is it? Who are you naming as an executor and executrix? And then we go into other specificities of their situation and what type of advice we can provide.
No, it's considering that we're all educated, I think it would be shocking for people to know how many people forget to have a will, number one, or update a will. I've been, in selling real estate, often it's about disposing of someone's, homestead after they've passed on. And it is a little messy for children when there is no will. You still have to probate the whole estate, and that can take some time. But I think having a will that dictates and you allocate an executor, and things go a little easier too. And absolutely. So often I find even if it's just a house that's an asset, it requires planning a bit too. So, it's a really, really important component. So just on a basic, I bring it up when I sell a home, for example, and when they're getting a mortgage, like from John. I don't know, John, do you touch on this too?
Well, absolutely. Every time we do a mortgage, we have a life insurance and disability insurance conversation. But it's good to know, Doris, that you do wills as well, because maybe that's part of the conversation as well that we should be introducing into that as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I always, I mention it because there's a change. Every time there's a change, it's an opportunity. And as professionals, I'm always encouraging people, even the lawyers that close the real estate transactions. In the past, I've said, well, maybe value added. I don't know what it costs, but why don't you just, discuss a will or throw one in, right? Or make sure it's part of the package, the investment. So,
for sure, most people, I would say, for most people, their biggest asset is their house, right? So that is such a significant change for them in their family assets, and such an important time to get a will done. Having a baby, that encourages people to get their wills done, and then so they can name guardians for their children. And then, changing their assets, like having a house where, I think sometimes people think buying a house is just all about incurring debt, and maybe nobody wants that debt in their will. But of course, as John said, most people have their mortgages insured. So really, you're talking about adding that whole value of your house to your estate.
No, for sure. It's for me, it's always interesting when people think, well, I mean, there's two of us, something happens to me, it automatically goes to her or him, right? So, but it isn't always that cut and dried, right? Because a lot of people have extenuating circumstances. Maybe it's not the original family, maybe there's another family. There's a couple of situations I know personally right now that are extraordinarily messy and are going to be even more messier than they think. So, and I just, it's always difficult when families begin to argue and don't see eye to eye, right? So, and then there's a lot more involved. I think in estate planning, you have to think about Revenue Canada, right? If it's not just your principal residence, it's perhaps maybe the farm, those thousands of acres. All of a sudden, the grandpa's estate comes into play. So, no, it's quite interesting, right? So Leonardo, what are we seeing out in the in the last week or so?
Yeah.
Where do you see things? How did the stock market and investments fare out this week?
Well, it's been a mixed week this week. The markets are closing a little bit lower today. It's 1:13 p.m. So I think the Dow Jones is about 23 and some. Yesterday, the North American equity markets fell a bit. We had reports coming in early this week that the S&P 500 was being held steady and was getting some growth via healthcare and energy sectors, but that some of that has receded. I think with investing, sometimes we look at three places where we are now. Sometimes cognitive bias, where we have been and where we should be going. And one of the things that I can say about this year is that it's been an incredibly interesting year. We had 11 years of a bull market run in the markets, and that continued into February. And the only thing really that disrupted it was the concern about COVID and its impact in uncertainty. So, we're looking at a March where we see indices plunging 12%, 11%, and 10%. And I'm referencing Dow, S&P 500, NASDAQ. And then around March 24th, we see a rally like we've rarely seen before. And in fact, the NASDAQ Composite Index had the best April since 1938. So that's like 86 years, 82 years, I don't remember. So
That's crazy.
And a few weeks ago we talked about keep calm and invest on. So we talked about the 4 principles about not panicking, remaining disciplined, avoid market timing, and staying diversified.
Right.
And I'm kind of referencing that cognitive bias of looking back. If we would have changed our investment strategy because of the fears in February, we would have missed out on the incredible growth that we had in April. So and the question remains, when is a good time to put it back into play? And the advice typically is, if the plan matches the investment strategy, then they should go hand in hand, and then we should look we should just carry that on forward. And so looking at forward, our fund managers and analysts on the calls that I've been on this week, I think last week or the week before I talked about W and V and U curves. So that what I'm trying to reference there is how the market will rise when it does. And I think, not what I think, but what's been relayed to us from our fund managers is that while we're not sure what will happen going forward, a recovery will probably look like a slow recovery, little by little, inching forward. So kind of like that principle of going 2 steps forward, maybe 1 step back one day, and then 3, and so forth. So that's, according to some of our fund managers, that's what it looks like. I recently, before coming in on this call, I saw a news article on my phone that came up that said essentially the same thing. So Where we were before is 11 years of a bull run, a few bad months because of COVID. We had a tremendous April, and then we'll have to see what the recovery possibly looks like. Certainly opening up certain sectors of the economy and business is going to provide a lot of investor confidence, and we will see how that ties into the markets as a whole.
No, I think that's a very good word, confidence. But I think people.
I think a haircut's going to give us confidence too.
Sorry, I missed a part of that. What did you say?
I think a haircut and a hair color is going to give me some confidence too.
Oh, big time. Big time. Yeah, a lot of, not so much the guys. Have you noticed? Like these two, this one, right? That's pretty sexy. That one's clean shaven. But a lot of guys are growing out their hair and they've got stuff going on. They didn't care. But a lot of girls were melting down. And I think about the middle of May. So the hair salons and the nail salons, good for them. Yeah. A lot of us found ways to do it ourselves. Look at this.
That looks great.
I know. I got some. I remember when I was young, we used to call them Lee press-on nails. They have a different name now, but yes.
Yeah, look at all the things you fellas you don't have to think about, huh? Right? I'm always jealous. Yeah, 10-minute shower and they come out looking like they've been sitting in somebody's makeup chair. Yeah. So, but John, what are you seeing? Where did the rates go since you were here? A week ago at the beginning of the week? We see you predicted then you'd see some maybe lowering of mortgage rates. So did that happen?
Yep. Yes, that's what we've seen. They've continued to come down little by little. So there seems to be, a little bit of downward pressure there. And so we have a lot of customers that are excited about that and taking advantage and rewriting mortgages that they have that are, in the 3.5% range, and they're lowering their monthly payments and putting some cash in their pockets, and it's helping them ride this out. So that's really exciting to be able to reach out and help folks in that manner.
Well, I certainly have been telling them that all that extra cash you're loosening up for them, they need to call Leo, because it's so easy to spend that extra cash. Okay.
Yes, well, they should call Doris first and get their will set up.
Oh, that too.
Then call Leo.
Yeah. But I heard Doris saying that she's there for a reason. She's also manages and looks after some trust. So that means she's been writing checks.
So we have a lot of people who are the beneficiaries of trusts who either get supported by them or get some supplement. I'm the trustee of a number of them. And so, they would be very unhappy. They would be crying little babies for sure if we weren't here writing their checks.
But I certainly hope they're using the money wisely that's coming out of the trust.
There's probably a 50-50 split on that.
Okay. All right. Well, that's okay.
But, it leads into that discussion. I would say that, one of the big discussions I have with families, and I think Leo can comment on this as well, is, when we do, in fact, build up some wealth and then think about how we give that out to families. This isn't just about saying, okay, I have 4 children, let's just give them each an equal share. I'm a big believer that you should really think about how they're going to get the money, not just that they're going to get it. And, I think families do worry about if they give their children money, will they blow it? That's one thing. What I see in my practice is when people get money, they also attract a lot of friends, people in their lives. And so the last thing you want is for, that inheritance that you give to your children to actually be a bad news story. And so we're very big on talking to families about, why don't you plan this, set up family trusts either in your will or outside of your will, so that you can provide for your families in a good way, to really think about what is the best way for my kids to get money, and getting it in installments and getting it over time is usually a really great way to get the money, so that that inheritance can be a good news story and not a bad news story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I think we've all heard of bad news stories, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the age is. I know a lot of people try to, in their will, restrict when the children inherit. But come to think of it, I think lawyers have said kids can actually get that overturned. You can't, if you say
There are
they
ways,
can't have their
yeah.
money till they're 35, right?
So there are ways to overturn it, but there are also ways to prevent overturning it with some good advice on how to set up those trusts. So, I think that it's never a bad idea to make kids wait for money. If they get it too early, it can be bad news. So, yeah, I think that, this isn't just about, well, in the pandemic, we've just been doing simple wills so people have something in place and have an executor. But really, it's about really thinking about the plan. And I also think that it's important to say, you don't need to come to the lawyer with all your answers, because you probably haven't drafted, a gazillion wills and you won't have all the answers. What you really want to come to the lawyer with, just like you maybe come to Leo with, is your goals. What are your goals in terms of what you want to achieve in your family, or what are your goals in terms of financial planning? And then let professionals give you ideas that then you can achieve those goals with.
Yeah, I'll add to Doris is wills can be fluid because life is fluid.
Yes.
Financial plans are fluid. So there's nothing wrong with changing your will as time goes on. I run across people who provide a will where the executor is, they set up the will when they were 40, the executor was 20 years older than them, and all of a sudden now the executor is in no shape or spirit to want to handle this.
Right.
So that's just a small example of how wills can be changed and should probably be changed and revisited as time goes on.
Absolutely.
So what I'm hearing is every time there's something major is a good time to address it. A baby, you buy a new house, you won the lottery, you change jobs. But maybe a good idea is annually, even if you're not making changes, because things happen. I don't know. Is that too frequent, Doris?
You know what? It's perhaps a big ask to look at it annually.
Okay.
People don't like to think about their death that often, maybe, but for sure, thinking about it every few years. And that's why we encourage people to take a copy of their will home. Don't put it in a safety deposit box, because then you'll never go get it out and read it. So keep it close at hand for sure. Every 5 years, take a look at it. But as Leo said, and just as you said, the bigger reason to look at your will is changes, right? So if your executor that you name suddenly develops a gambling addiction, probably a good time to change your will and your power of attorney.
That hadn't crossed my mind. Oh dear. Okay. Good point. Good point, Doris. Right. So I'm not sure if this is a fair question and whether you can answer it or not. So if a young couple, is there at your firm, a big firm like Denson's, right? A young couple, they do not have a will, but would like to have a will. I think as soon as you get married, by the way, you should have a will. Okay,
Right.
That's just me.
So true.
So what would someone have to budget to just start, like there?
So, a young couple without kids, and so we're not looking at trusts, I would say we usually do a package for them for wills, powers of attorney, personal directives, because we think you should have all three, for about $950 for a couple. If you're going to start to look at trusts when you have kids, and you're probably looking at $1,200. And then, of course, if we're going to do complicated trusts where you have lots of money and we need to think about really and a business and managing, it's probably a bit more than that. But, if you think you can buy a TV for less than $950, a will is probably way more important than a TV. So
Sure.
If you kind of put it in that perspective.
Yeah. Best investment, period.
Best investment. Yeah. And if you think about it on a yearly basis, in terms of amortizing it like John deals with, it's not a very big cost in terms of thinking that you're drafting a document that really helps your family and keeps them out of court. And really lasts for years and years, right? Lots of people do their will when they have a baby, don't do another will until their kids are older.
Mm-hmm. So, John, that brings me to another question. I've been in this real estate industry for a long, long time. And, everyone I talk to, we bring up this subject. So, Could we not sort of roll that into the total closing cost somehow? Come on.
Well, I mean, what we can do, we certainly talk to our customers on an annual basis. We do an annual mortgage health checkup as a complimentary service.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the idea of, at renewal time, which is roughly every 5 years,
Right.
we could certainly bring up the topic of wills. And also when they are making the initial purchase, and oftentimes we'll work with partners where maybe they provide a coupon as a gift for a closing gift, maybe $150 off your first will or something like that. And then that way we can start making referrals back and forth and really helping the customer and working together as a team to kind of surround them with a bunch of professionals. Because oftentimes when they're doing a transaction like this, they are concerned. They don't really know all the different aspects. They don't know about inspections or realtors or lawyers. So anytime you can surround them, with a team of like-minded people that are working to help them, I think that's a great value add that we can provide.
No, for sure. I'd like to see that on the checklist, because a lot of times, they think they don't quite have that extra money at the time, but it is investment, and I think Leo would agree with that too. It's part of the future investment planning as well.
Absolutely.
It makes your life simpler if your clients, have a big portfolio with you and no one's paid attention, that the portfolios change and grow, and has grown in years. So, Doris, sometimes young couples forget the following. Okay, so you start out, they get married and they don't even think that, maybe someday they'll inherit from their parents or an aunt or an uncle. Okay. So I've seen that happen. So another reason why I think it's wills are important, right? Because there's, other things that come into play. I've seen couples that go, well, they start out with zero, right? Both have a job and they build together, and then boom, right? All of a sudden, grandma or grandpa passes away, and oh my gosh, they've left the lion's share of the estate to this young man who goes, oh, I thought it was going to go to, right? Yes. So I think that do you address these kinds of things? Because most kids come along with parents and aunts and uncles and things, right? I know of a situation where, this couple, they don't have any, they're friends for many years, don't have children. But I know that the lion's share of what they have will go to their, nieces, nephews, whatever. So. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. We see lots more childless couples, and someone might think that was then an easier will, but in fact, it's a harder will because, couples who have children kind of, for the most part, are going to give their money to their kids, maybe some to grandkids. But if you don't have children, then who do you leave it to? And I think sometimes people don't do their wills because they don't know those answers. So charity becomes obviously a very big part of people's wills when they don't have anyone else to leave it to. But I also encourage people to think about who are the special people in their life that in their will, they can now say a final thank you to by leaving something, right? So is that a nanny or a special employee or someone who's really been instrumental in growing your business, godchildren, your neighbor? There's lots of your best friend who, you've shared everything with. There's so many people in your life that, and this would be true for people even who have children, you might want to think about just leaving them a piece of jewelry, a small amount of money, just to say thank you for that relationship. Because I would say wills is, when you draft your will, it's all about the relationships that you've had. You leave money to people who you've had a special relationship with.
True.
Maybe your mortgage broker.
Yeah,
or maybe the mortgage broker, or your investment guy that made the entire portfolio grow. Good plan. Are you allowed actually to be a beneficiary, Leonardo, in someone's will?
I'm certainly allowed to be a beneficiary in somebody's will. I certainly would feel very uncomfortable if a client would name me a beneficiary in
oh dear.
Just on principle, it doesn't seem right.
Yeah. Wow, no, that's pretty cool. Now, you touched on something about some jewelry or a specific thing. So in that, would that be a codicil to the will, and does it have to be very specific?
Do you know what? So I so encourage have people be specific about things in their house, because those things can cause the most trouble. And so we encourage people to say, I may have a list of things and who gets them. And that way you can develop that list over time. It's not necessarily a codicil, but the will make reference to the fact that you are going to have a list and that you want your executor to follow it. And the nice thing about the list is it can be fluid as well. So you can put some things on it today. You can add to it. When you're mad at somebody, poof, they can go off the list. When you're happy with them, they can go back on the list. But important that you can have those discussions with your children. We've actually been encouraging people during this pandemic to have those discussions about what they would like from their parents' affairs. But then you're never really going to inventory your whole house. So then we always encourage people to have a system on what they do with the rest of their things. So we've had people be very creative, like say, they can decide, and if there's a dispute, play rock, paper, scissors, or play the best poker hand. The system I like is that children would choose in birth order and reverse birth order. So you'd go 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Still sucks to be a middle child. And but at least then you have a system on how your things would be divided in your house. And again, the system's only limited by your imagination. But I think all of us can relate to, maybe even John and Leo can talk about their families, about how there are special things in their households that may cause trouble that aren't even worth very much. And those are the kinds of things also that can lead to people not getting together for Christmas or Hanukkah the next year.
I agree with Doris.
Leo?
Sometimes, property, things like that, or investment portfolios, those are easy to divide if it's defined. If it's 3 children, well, here's your pie, take a third, take a third, take a third. And what I hear sometimes in the office, really, or sometimes out of it, is it's those more emotional attachments, those things that you walk by in the house that were, and that's sometimes to be the sore spot, or can cause more conflict. The one thing I wanted to add prior that I never did is when in my checklist, I always ask customers if they have a will. And I always ask if they have updated it. But back to Doris's points, I always ask, do you know where this will is?
Oh, good question.
Because I've updated it, and then you ask them where it is, and then, it becomes a question of trying to track down this paperwork that's probably in a very nice binder somewhere, but people don't know where it is. So, part of that is identifying, and it comes in. If the customer would like, they can add that to the binder that I provide them with the plan. So it all in one place.
It's a good idea. Very good idea. Knowing where it is, for sure.
John, I have a question.
Sure.
What sometimes on our calls about overnight rates and things like that, there's the question that arises about if the Feds in the U.S. and here the central bank starts cutting down rates, the likelihood of getting into negative interest rates rises. Certainly, that wouldn't be on a mortgage product, but it is. I don't know. I just wanted to, I listened to this as part of as investment advice. Investment portfolio managers. Yet I wanted to ask the question to somebody who's in the business of lending in a different space.
Sure. Well, I have actually, I think it was in Norway, they briefly had negative interest rates on mortgages, which is sort of interesting to wrap your head around, but I don't see that happening here. I think it was an experiment that they did, and maybe more of a marketing ploy to get people to come in, but
negative.
I don't see that happening here anytime soon. So but you never know. You never know. What we're more worried about is liquidity issues and interest rates rising. And, you know, if they do rise, it might be very uncomfortable. Might be a bit of a spike if liquidity becomes a major issue. And some people are predicting that that might happen with a lot of inflation going along with that. So that's one of the reasons we're encouraging people to take this time where rates are at historic lows to maybe, you know, lock in. And I don't know, Leo, question for you, maybe as part of your checklist, do you talk to people about getting a mortgage health checkup? Because that's a huge component of their financial portfolio. And we do offer that service for people, just to give them a complimentary, let's do a sanity check on your mortgage, and we can help teach you about the terms and what they mean, and maybe look at some opportunities.
I do a mortgage calculator with the customers. I don't know what your health checkup entails. It's probably a lot more in depth than some of you. Probably stress check it and run different models if interest rates rise or if they're lower, and then this is what your cash flow kind of looks like.
Well, actually, mainly what we do is we talk to the customer about what their plans are for the future, because that's really going to determine what's the best mortgage for them. You know, are you planning to expand your family and maybe trade up? Are you looking to move somewhere? You know, do you want to maybe consolidate some debt, or do you want to set up a Scotia step mortgage? There's a plug, and do a Smith maneuver so you can add money to your investments on a regular basis. So we have this kind of macro high level discussions before we kind of look at the numbers, because there's really no point in drilling down until you understand what the customer is trying to accomplish. And then that will really drive any kind of recommendations that we might have as to how to restructure their current mortgage.
That's good to know.
That's good to know. I agree. That's very good. So back to these rates for a second. I don't think you answered the question, or I didn't hear. So are we down to under 2 yet for a 5-year fixed?
Well, we have what are called unpublished promos. So if you call the number at the bottom of the screen, we can tell you. But we as far as published rates, we have as low as 239 on a 5-year fixed. Okay. If you're closing within 45 days. But again, we get unpublished promos on a regular basis, and it's always good to call. Of course, a lot of these mortgages are only available in certain situations, like if you're purchasing versus refinancing, or if you have a low credit score versus a high. So we really need to understand, you know, where are you today? Where do you want to be tomorrow? What's important to you? You know, what are you trying to accomplish? And then that really drives us to a solution for them. A lot of people just say, what's your best rate? It depends. You know, are you moving in 2 years?
It's flexible, but, you know, I was just getting you to throw out a sort of a guide there, because the general public, when they talk about rates, right, it's always about, well, what's the lowest rate? And we know that there's I always encourage clients, there's a lot more to, it's more than just a rate, right? You're not going to pick up and move. And I always discourage that, right? You know, well, I'm going to move over there because it's a quarter of a point lower. If you do the math, it often doesn't equate to lunch, but you have to look at all the other benefits, right?
Right. And you know, a lot of people are very, very focused on the rate, but that's not the whole picture. So there's a whole different levels of service you can get depending on who you want to work with. So for example, self-service folks want to go on the internet by themselves. They want to enter all their private and confidential information onto some website. You know, they hit enter and whoosh, where does that go? I don't know. Or, you know, kind of in the middle, they like, if they're happy with their banker and they're okay with one product line, you know, that there's a good solution. Or maybe they want a full service mortgage provider who's going to do things like the annual health checkup and try to educate them about mortgage. So there's a lot more to it than just the rate, because maybe you learned something that saves you much more money in your future than maybe 3 bips you could have shaved off the rate. So, you know, we try to, that's our approach, is really to try to educate people and teach them about mortgages and how they work. maybe then rate, and it's been proven statistically that rate is not the actual most important part of a mortgage for most folks. So
No,
that's the area of the space that we play in.
but John, I mean, thinking about this, so when you're doing that mortgage checkup, right? Seriously, do you think of someone like Leo, like about other investments? Do you go
Absolutely.
into that in depth? Okay. Because
absolutely. We look for partnerships with people like Leo and Doris, because when we're having that conversation, what are your plans? Well, I really want to invest in the stock market. I think it's at an all-time low, and how do I do that? I don't have any money. Well, okay, let's look at the equity that you might have in your home. Okay. And if there's some equity in there, there are some ways you can set up lines of credit with individual accounts within them. So for tax purposes, you can say, okay, I'm using that chunk of it for investments so I can write off the interest, or I'm using this other chunk over here to buy a cottage, so okay, I can't write that off. So we're always having those kind of conversations to understand the bigger picture, because ultimately that adds more value to the relationship with the customer. And we want to have these customers for life, and we want to expand our network of referral sources, our trusted, partners that we work with. So absolutely that comes up. Sally, if someone comes for a pre-approval, one of the questions we ask them is, are you working with a realtor?
Sure.
So
very good question.
That surrounding the customer with a team of professionals, because a lot of people don't have the time these days to go through, the yellow pages to find an inspector or a lawyer or a financial planner or an investment advisor. And once they start to trust us, then they're going to trust our recommendations as well.
True.
And hopefully you folks would feel the same way.
Yeah, I think Leo, you as well, and Doris, the same thing. Your clients trust you, and this word resonated for me anyway. It's always been a key part of my mentality is trust. And I think over the last 6-7 weeks into we all hit that brick wall, I call it, right? More and more important, right, for everyone to surround themselves with people that they trust. And so I'm always actually, when people are looking at refinancing and pressing restart buttons and things, when you think about real estate, for me, real estate's always been a long-term investment. And I like to call it a mortgage depreciation plan, that we have the privilege in Canada to be a partner with the bank and the rest of the Canadians, if it's high ratio, Canada Mortgage and Housing is us. And so that's one aspect. But in certain markets, we have to realize, people got spoiled over the last 12 or 15 years where they think they're going to, like, the poor house will make you a millionaire overnight. Not so. Okay, so you have to look at other investments that will grow, because I've always said to young people and to everyone, now you have hindsight to go back on. I have to tell you, the last 40 years in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada went like that. Okay, and Doris, I think you've been in over 26 years in law.
Yeah, well, actually, I wish I was. I'm actually at 35, but so I'm a little. I'm longer in the tooth than that. So yeah, I've been in this industry for a long time. Sally, I would like to know. I'm curious. How has the real estate business been in this pandemic?
Well, it has been, as you know. In Alberta, we've been, suffering with a little recession. I call it a little recession. That's because I always try to encourage people. I thought we were kind of at the end, and I could see the light at the end of the tunnel in 2020. And so now I'd like to think of COVID as just a pause, okay? I'm also encouraging bankers and appraisers to cut the Edmonton real estate market a little bit of slack, okay? And not think that COVID has just pulled the whole bottom out of it and it's all free falling, okay? So I think I'm hoping, and I'm looking online, we see all the online viewing. So we expected that over the last 6-7 weeks, people are on the computer. That's where they start their search to begin with. But for the month of April, I can tell you the stats coming out of the real estate board in terms of the number of sales in April, say versus April of last year, we're not that far off. Like I think last year we reported over 1,000 and some in sales, and as of a few days ago it was 900 and whatever. But you have to also remember a lot of those sales were probably on the books, and COVID is still very new. And moving forward now, we're entering our spring market, and you know, spring is later here compared to BC, where they're probably planning for summer already. But you know, people still need to move and make changes. There will be some people that have to move, and we're certainly hoping that we're not going to see, other than what we predicted already for the market, the adjustments due to our, you know, oil and gas situation, that perhaps maybe things were going to adjust. Some people predict 20% in values, but it's you know, it's so difficult to peg, because in the end there will always be a percentage of our market that must sell. Okay, and but you know, we're all adaptable. I mean, it's not going to be, I know there's people poised and they're all making egregious offers. Trust me, we have written offers. I've managed to get in the last couple of weeks, you know, a couple of deals put together and firm, unconditional. Yay. Ooh. That was not easy, okay, you guys. Especially when buyers are sitting there, well, but with COVID, shouldn't it be a lot lower? And I'm going, well, listen, you know, we need to move forward, and you know, we can't sit there and say to the owner, well, COVID, your property is worth 50% less. You know, no, that's, I don't see that happening. I do see supply and demand. I'm always a big fan of supply and demand. Okay, right. So we're going to see more inventory coming up here because it's spring. That's normal, and we will see some adjustments. There's no question, depending on the motivation, right, of people. Some people who are out of jobs now are currently concerned about their mortgages. As John knows, the banks are postponing, right, some payments for people. But I've always encouraged people to listen. If you're finished with this, let's just move on. Okay, get ahead of it. Most people are not, you know, financially capable of carrying 2 properties. That happens a lot. Well, we're going to wait for the market to go up. Our market here in Alberta, we've been so unique. I know Leo, the Scotiabank, you know, the Bank of Canada, they feel they needed to protect markets such as Ontario and Vancouver with their qualifying. I'm a big fan of getting rid of that. John knows that. I think Leo, you've heard me say this, because what it did do, it didn't, you know, it may have slowed those markets a little, not a lot, you guys, but it crippled us, like literally. Because right now, you announced, John, about 5-6 weeks ago, and we know that the qualifying rate is 5.04%. Yes or no? Is it still?
Yes, it currently is, and they do flip around back and forth and try to come up with different formulas. The easiest one is contract rate +2. If anyone's listening.
You know, so when you think of, you know, in comparison, John, to you quoting 2.29% for 5-year term, and I always recommend for couples, you know, to think in 5-year increments, John. We're not buying a house for a year or two. Makes no sense. You may as well rent and give Leo the extra money. You do get a will with Doris. You know, because I've Leo, have you run the numbers? You know, if people, you know, you can come out ahead too, but you have to, the frequency. If you pay your rent and it's $1,500, you better be giving Leo $1,500 every month.
At least
sounds
10%,
like a winning
right?
plan.
No, but in the end, after 25 years of giving Leo the same amount as the cost of, you know, do the math sometime. It's quite interesting. And
I was going to say, Sally, another thing that when you make a 5.04 kind of artificial, if you will, not market driven per se, You eliminate some competition. So if I've got a lender at 2.29 and the rule is add 2, so you're qualifying at 4.29, and I've got another lender at 2.89, so now you got to qualify at 4.89. So you don't qualify for as much mortgage with one lender as the other.
True.
So shouldn't that competitive behavior be rewarded?
I agree. Yes.
You know, so that's something that gets overlooked quite often.
See, so
it's an artificially level playing field.
You know, if I could afford to, I would have, you know, lots of educational commercials on television, like just like that basic stuff. Because after all these years, I must tell you that, you know, and people can't hear these things enough, right? We need to continually tell them, right? This is what you need to look for. This is what you need to do. And, you know, back to, you know, saying about investments and housing, I don't think that people really should think of ownership is great. For me, it's a forced savings, and banks love it when you show a commitment to a mortgage. You can do a lot more things after that, right? But really need to be putting money away every month. Leo, I think Leo subscribes to that, yes? Monthly.
Absolutely. Dollar cost averaging.
Okay, because what you can't get back is time. And this is what I'm hoping that COVID-19, you know, that lots of good things will come out of this. It's, you know, it's an unfortunate thing that occurred. We've lost a lot of people, and, you know, my hearts go out for everyone. I mean, we've lost far more people than we thought we would. But it also, you know, reiterates the value of time. And so I have a question. So back to the real estate market. Doris, I am always optimistic and positive. We are going to move real estate. And I've said to people, the right time is when you're ready to move, and there's nothing wrong with considering and taking the time to make the change. Change is great. And perhaps maybe coming out of COVID, we realized that there's no point in sitting back. If you want to sell your existing home and buy a new one, you should do this, right? And look at all the people they have surrounded that they can trust to do this, right? So I have a question for each of you before you leave me. I know you probably have lots of calls and things to make, right? So what are you guys looking for? Doris, what are you looking forward to as we try to get back to normalcy, normal as we knew it?
I think for me, it's going to be the human contact with clients. Certainly, we've been busy and we've done lots of meetings on the phone, and we've done some, you know, Zoom and different calls on computer. I'm tired of looking at myself on a screen, but I'm going to say the human contact. I think it's just so much better to be able to meet with people. And I think people feel more comfortable, and they'll probably get their estate planning in place. So
that's awesome. Leonardo?
I think I had a work one, but I'm going to let it slide. My sister gave birth to a niece 2 weeks ago in Spain. And I am, as soon as I can, and it's, you know, safe to do so, that's what I'm looking forward to the most. Is gonna go meet Leonora, who's in Barcelona.
What is her name? Sorry, repeat.
Leonora.
Oh, beautiful! Congratulations, Uncle Leonardo. Yeah, that's wonderful. I hope that they lift that sooner than later.
Yeah.
And John, what about you? I know you're cooped up with your children at home.
Well, I guess on a personal level, our band's been getting calls from the club saying, you know, we're hoping to open up, and can you play in a couple of weeks? So we're getting really excited about that. We love to play music and entertain people, and you know, as Doris said, I'm looking forward to hugging my friends again. You know, but from a business perspective, what I'm really looking forward to is all the cool and crazy entrepreneurs that are going to come out of the woodwork out of this, with all sorts of new industries and technologies, different ways of doing things, you know, whether it's, you know, telemedicine or new networking types of things. It's going to change our economy. And I think whenever there's major stresses like this, there's a spike of entrepreneurial activity. And I'm really looking forward to, the cool things that come out of this. Plus the hugging.
Wow. Plus the hugging. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. You know what? I actually, it has, definitely, people have become far more creative. But I agree with you, Doris. You're kind of tired looking at yourself, right? So Doris, this is your first time joining us, and we sure hope you'll come back. But on Fridays, it's our Feel Good Friday, and Terrell Edwards, a friend of mine and such an amazing entertainer.
I've seen him.
He comes on Fridays. Terrell, welcome.
Hello. You got to put my glasses on. Oh, there you are. How's it going, guys?
So you remember Leonardo?
Yeah. How are you, Leonardo? Good to see you.
Terrell.
And
John?
John Cliff, right? He's excited. He's getting calls for his band to go and play. Like, look at that.
Yeah, I heard that, and you guys added a little more beauty to the group here with Doris. Thank you, Doris, for joining us.
I've seen you at the Alzheimer's events. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, we hope
we're there, Doris.
Yeah, I used to sit on the Alzheimer's board, so it's a very big, important cause for me.
Oh wow. Yeah, well, for us too.
We were just talking about Alzheimer's earlier, and it's huge for us. And
yeah, absolutely.
So you're not on the board anymore, Doris?
No, I still volunteer. I do the legal part of their Seeds of Hope program every when they do that. So I like that part of volunteering because it's much more people focused than the board work. But yeah, still a very important part of my life.
But Terrell, it's still a passion of his. So he's got great big things.
You got contact information for Doris here?
Oh yeah, we do. Doris is on here.
Hey John, John, I got a question for you. I was listening in. I got a question. You made a reference like the yellow pages. I don't know what's yellow pages. I don't get it.
These are silver pages. It's not gray, it's silver.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you here in your band.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Terrell, tell us what's been going on. I know that you've got lots of big things up your sleeve, and you know what? I started thinking, there's Denton's, that could be a sponsor. Come on, the Mortgage Center. Yeah. Leo could connect you to the Scotia. Come on, got big plans,
sure,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like as John said, we're looking forward to things changing a little bit now. Our balcony serenade series has already started for our seniors, Doris. Just so you know, we're visiting seniors' homes, Christensen communities, and all seniors care. They've got seniors' homes all over town, and me and my team, we go out. They can sit out on their balconies. We go into their courtyard and we do a nice little show for them.
We're so good.
Yeah, so we'll be out. If you guys know of anyone that wants us to come and visit, we're more than happy to do that. But we are focusing on the senior communities right now because they've had less opportunities than us to go out and visit with people. So mental health is really important. So that's important, and of course our game show on Thursdays, TE Live. If you guys get a chance, John, I don't know if you got a chance to see us in action yet, but we'd like to get this panel right here on our show.
Sure.
Do a little meet and greet to our audience, and then get you right into some trivia, some music trivia. You guys all like music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
I had a chance. I saw last night. That was really lots of fun, Terrell. Yeah, I was trying hard to answer the questions. Right.
You answered most of them, I think, before the contestants actually answered.
I did.
Hey,
Blueberry Hill. I knew that one right off the bat.
I was just going to ask them if they knew the answer to "I Found My Thrill."
Oh, sorry.
On Blueberry Hill.
Okay, what about Elton John's age? Ask them.
Yeah. How old is Elton John?
Ooh,
68.
68. Okay. 73.
I think he's 79.
Ah!
79. Wow. Okay. Well, you know what? If he's 74 now, but he would have been 73 a couple months ago. So, Doris, you would have won.
Oh, wait a
Well,
minute,
he'll be
so
79 in 5 years. So
Yeah, there you go.
What's the term?
So you make him a year
Yeah.
older because it's April?
Well, I don't know when his birthday is, but I just, we just look for the info. We just do for fun facts, and we find out how old he is, and there he is.
He's turned 73 in March of this year. And you want to know how I did that? I was at a concert, and I actually wasn't sure how old, so I Googled it. My husband's birthday is March. Yeah.
I have a trivia question for Terrell.
All right.
How old is Keith Richards?
How old is Keith Richards? Keith Richards is 68.
No, he's 140.
I was actually going to say 80.
Yeah. He's down the line there. I was trying to give him some extra.
Yeah, I understand that he's 76, Keith Richards, and you're right, John. He looked. Yeah,
I have tickets to go see them with my friends and son in May 12th in Vancouver. Been postponed.
Oh, postponed. I thought maybe you heard something new. Okay. No, it's postponed. So you're going to see Rolling Stones? What about that's awesome.
I first saw them in 1974 in Toronto.
You were alive then? You were born then?
I was at a Rolling Stones concert.
All right.
He was six
Do you remember when they were here?
No, I wasn't. I was living in Vancouver, I think, probably then.
Okay. That was quite the show. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
Sally, did you hear my? Did you remember my story about Colonel Harlan Sanders?
Yes, you were kind to tell us on Monday. Yes. Isn't that great?
Yeah. Well, I got another story for you. You guys got time for a story?
We sure do.
Okay, all right. There was a lady, and she lived in a small town. She had 2 sons, and her husband just passed away. She was always a stay-at-home mom, and she didn't have any other experiences other than what she did at home. So, but she knew that this guy was coming to town, and he had some great ideas, and he could help. And so she was assured that she would meet this guy. And she said, "I got to ask him for some help." So when the guy showed up in town, she said, "Sir, I understand that you've helped people all over, everywhere you travel. You got to help me. I don't have any way of paying my bills. I've got no way of paying my bills. Can you please help me?" Oh. And this is a story about using what you have. So he says, well, what do you have in your house? She says, "Well, I don't have anything." She says, I got just 1 jar of oil. That's all I got." And he says, "Well, what are you going to do with that jar of oil?" She said, "I can't do anything with it." He says, "Search your mind and see what you can do with that jar of oil." So she took that jar of oil and she started to sell it. Well, little did she know the whole neighborhood needed oil. And before she knew it, she had enough money to buy more oil. And she had enough money to buy more oil. And then after that, she had enough to provide for her and her kids. So the moral of that story is start where you are, use what you have, do what you can.
Awesome.
Nice story.
On that note, are you planning to sing us a song today?
Oh, okay. Well, I've got a great song that we're all gonna. I'm feeling like we're gonna be playing some golf here pretty soon. Any golfers on the panel here today? I kind of got a feeling, John, that we're gonna be out there soon. So until then, I've got a little song called "It's All Right."
Aww.
Can you guys hear that music?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just a little bit of that song. Well, it's all right. Saying it's all right. It's all right. to have a good time. It's all right. Oh, it's all right. We're gonna move it slow. Dim the lights down low. When you move it slow, it sounds like more. 'Cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Now listen to the beat and kind of pat your feet. You got soul, everybody knows. It's all right. Oh, it's all right. Just one little thing. When you wake up early in the morning, feeling sad like so many of us do, we'll just hum a little soul and make life your goal. And surely something's gonna come to you. Say it's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Cool.
It's all right. Have a good time. It's all right. Whoa, it's all right. That's all right.
It's fantastic. Wow, Terrell, that's terrific.
So good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. This was wonderful. Look how fast it goes when we're having a great time. So, anybody here know who Yardley Jones is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Yardley is turning 90, and he is at McConnell Place, right? The assisted living facility in the West End. And his birthday is tomorrow. Now, Yardley, of course, like most seniors, are confined. So we are going there in the morning at 10 a.m. and we're going to sing one of his favorite songs, right? And I've asked Terrell, and he was kind enough to say yes, he's going to come out and help us sing that song. So, John, if you're awake, Leonardo, right? Doris, you're welcome to join us. We're going to have cake. And, you know, Yardley to me is, you know, I mean, he's iconic, an iconic cartoonist. He's been here a long time. Another one of our heroes. He's captured so many wonderful things about our city, right? If you know, get a chance to ever see any of his works, it's wonderful. So I'm going to meet Nick Lees, who's a really good friend of Yardley Jones, and I'm looking forward to that. So we're going to actually do a little video while we're there, and I'm going to play that tomorrow live on the webinar at 1 o'clock as well. And yeah, Yardley, happy birthday, 90. May we all, you know, live that long, productive life as Yardley.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank Doris. What a pleasure to have you here with us today. We're looking forward to seeing you more often. And
thank you.
With you. And yes, it's very important. If you don't have a will, get one. Call Doris. If you have one that you haven't seen or don't know where it is, you may want to call Doris again, right away. And refinance your home and look at taking some of that equity. I know you need that new truck. I get it. Okay, but you know, they'll always find a way to get you the truck. But make sure, call Leo, start a plan today. It's so very, very important. And there is a tomorrow, right? I know a few weeks ago we all thought there was not going to be a tomorrow, but as you can see, as things get lifted, I can already sense in all the people I talk to daily, and I started early this morning, there's a sense of something is lifted, right?
Absolutely.
You know, just encouragement that we can actually go on a patio and interact with each other. I think that's what we're all missing the most, is that human interaction, right? So I want to thank you all again. Leonardo, thank you. And your advice over the last several weeks have been spot on. Okay. So,
you guys have been referred to as the dream team of financial security. Just want to let you know that. That's true.
No,
That's what
really,
we hope
if
to
you don't have a feeling, I've said this before, if you don't know anything and you just hand over your money, right, you come back in 20 years, they're still going to be around and they go, whoa, that's all mine. And that's how I feel. So You know, and Leo, remember, this is the thing. We have to find time. You know, I don't know how you guys are doing it right now. This assessment, John, mortgage is over the phone or virtually. What are we doing here? Yeah.
Yeah, over the phone.
Well, there's no better time to start than
I'm running Skype meetings.
May 1st.
They look kind of like this, except we can share screens.
Yeah.
So some customers don't want to see my face, but that's okay. I think the important part is allowing for a platform where we can share things back and forth, which is what we normally do on a desk.
Okay.
You know, part of the human touch is that we're there, but also the importance of meeting on a desk is so we can share things together. And Skype for Business allows me to do that.
Well, that's cool. And you know what? I know it sounds like homework. I'm the worst at it too. So, like, can we kind of start by just telling you, oh, well, here's the basics?
We can start with the basics, but we're going to drill down pretty quick.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to it, right, Leo? Thank you.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, call me, fit me in, okay? And John, I tell you, on a personal level, I'm learning every day too. So I do have some mortgage questions for you. Yeah, even though I have a phenomenal banker, yeah, he's been busy, right? Leo knows my banker. He's a really good guy, and I don't know. I mean, he's crazy busy, and he hasn't been able to see anybody. He has to work from home. But anyway, thank you guys. And so here's to COVID be gone.
COVID be gone.
COVID be gone. And I know you're all going to have a fantastic weekend because I know I'm going to make it so. Right, John?
Absolutely.
You're gonna get, oh, no, you can't go on the golf course yet. May 4th.
I think next week. And Terrell, I didn't know you're a golfer. You're more than welcome to join me as my guest at the Highlands Golf Club. I'd be happy to have you.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, you might regret it, but I'll be more than happy to.
Oh, that's okay.
Unless I'm on the opposing team, you might be happy then.
Is it 6 we're supposed to stay here, or what's that going to look like, John? You'll have to come back on Monday and update us.
Yeah, well, I hook the ball, so if I play with someone who slices the ball, we should be okay.
I'm a slicer. Here we go.
Hey. And worst case, we can sing for our supper.
Oh, COVID
rule
right here. Oh, I like this new COVID rule. If you get it onto the green and it's like 6 feet from the flat, it's in. I'm looking forward to a hole-in-one.
Yeah. John, I'll connect with you after, John.
Whoa. Do you golf, Leonardo?
No, I do not. I ride bicycles. That's where I spend my time in the sun.
We're not golfers either. So, I'm looking forward, everybody. I'm a member of the Derek. So, yeah, we're going to go. I used to host golf tournaments back in the day. Maybe it's time. I had the best golf tournament ever.
I believe it.
Well, thank you all. And I'm going to see you next time. God bless you and keep you all safe. And together, everyone achieves more. I'm finally getting that that team statement correct. And of course, one of my favorite guys is Albert Einstein. And I've been saying this. In the middle of opportunity or difficulty lies opportunity. I get it all mixed up half the time, but I think he meant that we could grow and find ways to be together. So thank you all for being here. I cannot believe, like Carol Burnett used to say, I'm so glad we had the time together, but it's gone.
All right.
Thank you, Doris. Stay in touch, okay?
I will. Thank you so much, Sally. Take care, everyone. Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
May you get to see your niece now, soon, okay? And Mr. T, I'm looking forward to you entertaining Yardley Jones tomorrow, 10 a.m. At McDowell Place in the West End, 87th Avenue and 165th Street, okay?
Yep, we'll see you there.
All right, guys, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now. This was fun. This was lots of fun.